Milwaukee, July 1991, in a rundown apartment building on North 25th Street. Tenants had been complaining for weeks about a smell. It seeped through the vents, clung to the wallpaper, and slipped under locked doors. Some said it was spoiled meat. Others blamed the plumbing. But the quiet man in apartment 213 always had an explanation. He was polite, soft-spoken, kept to himself, always alone, until one night, a man came running out of that apartment, barefoot, handcuffed. Terrified, he flagged down police officers and led them back inside, and what they found would shock the world. Crime, conspiracy, cults, serial killers, and murder, all things that I love to consume, and I know you do too. You sick, twisted, beautiful, intellectually minded freak. Today, we're talking about one of the most infamous serial killers of all time. You hear his name, and you instantly know who he is. Even people who aren't into true crime know him, Jeffrey Dahmer, and today, we're doing a deep, deep dive into this man's life, who he was, how he became what he became, and the atrocities he committed over more than a decade. So, without further ado, let's unbuckle our seatbelts, go Mach 5 down the highway, slam on the brakes, and bust through the windshield, straight into the life of Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer. Chapter 1, The Quiet Boabi, for the headlines, before the horror. There was just a quiet boy in a quiet town. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born May 21st, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to Joyce Annette and Lionel Herbert Dahmer. From the outside, they looked like a typical middle-class American family. Lionel was a college-educated chemist. Joyce taught teletype machines. They went to church, had 2 sons, Jeffrey and David, and lived what looked like a normal life. But behind closed doors, the home was tense and unstable. Joyce struggled with anxiety and hypochondria. Lionel buried himself in academic and professional work. Their marriage was strained, and the emotional distance only grew after Jeffrey was born. When Jeff was around 4 years old, some accounts say 6, he had double hernia surgery. It was painful and invasive, especially for a small child. Some people later speculated that this early experience of being cut open and vulnerably contribute to his feelings of violation and disconnection before the surgery. Jeffrey was described as energetic and cheerful. Afterward, he became quiet, withdrawn, emotionally distant. He was polite, but isolated. He often sat alone, showed little interest in other kids. Lionel later wrote in his book, A Father's Story, Thath could tell Jeffrey was different, more withdrawn than other children, but he had no idea what that difference would eventually become. The family moved several times: Milwaukee, Doylestown, and finally Bath Township, Ohio, in that ordinary ranch-style house, surrounded by trees. Some of Jeffrey's darkest fascinations started to grow, even as a child. Dahmer showed a disturbing curiosity about death. He collected roadkill. He dissected dead animals. He used chemicals to strip flesh from bones. Most kids do not do that. At one point, he even impaled a dog's head on a stick in the woods. Huge red flag. But it's important to note, he wasn't known for torturing living animals. He hunted for things that were already dead. Later, he said he once thought about killing a living dog to dissect it, but when the dog looked into his eyes, he couldn't do it and let it go. So there was some flicker of empathy there, just not enough. By high school, Dahmer was already abusing alcohol heavily. He was drinking hard liquor during class, hiding bottles in his locker. Teachers mostly turned a blind eye. Different time at the same time. He was wrestling with his sexuality and escalating fantasies. He realized he was attracted to men. But more than that, he fantasized about total control, about men who were unconscious or even dead in real life. He had no close friends, no real relationships, no one he trusted enough to be honest with. Lonely, confused, angry, and drinking himself numb. His parents' marriage fell apart in an ugly divorce. They fought over custody of his younger brother. No one seemed focused on Jeff. And then, in the summer of 1978, just weeks after he graduated high school, Jeffrey Dahmer would cross a line he could never uncross. Chapter 2. The first murder began with a hitchhiker. June 18th, 1978. Jeffrey's alone at the family home in Bath, Ohio. He's 18. His parents are gone. No supervision. As he's driving down a rural road, he sees a teenage hitchhiker, 18-year-old Stephen Hicks. Hicks is heading to a rock concert, shirtless in the summer heat, thumb out for a ride. Dahmer pulls over. Later, he would admit he had already been fantasizing about picking up a hitchhiker, taking him home, and having complete control over him. Jeff offered Hicks a ride and suggested they stop at his house first to drink some beers and listen to music before the concert. Hicks agreed. They drank, talked, listened to records for hours, but eventually, Stephen said he needed to go. He still wanted to make it to the concert, and that's when Dahmer snapped. He later said, "I don't know exactly why I hit him, except I wanted to stay with him longer." Dahmer picked up a dumbbell and struck Hicks from behind. Then he strangled him. Afterward, alone in the house, fantasy became reality. Dahmer sexually abused the body, then began the process of getting rid of it, cutting it up, burying parts, then later digging them up, dissolving flesh and smashing bones so they would never be found. No one suspected. Hicks was reported as a missing person, and Jeffrey went off to college. He wouldn't kill again for 9 years, but the way he handled that first body, meticulous, controlled, calculated, tells you everything. He had already crossed into a different world in his mind. Chapter 3. Drifting, drinking, and darker events after the first murder. Dahmer's life fell apart in slow motion. He flunked out of Ohio State University after 1 semester, barely going to class, drinking constantly. His father pushed him into the US Army in 1979. Jeff trained as a medic and was stationed in West Germany at first. He did okay, average soldier, nothing special, but the drinking followed him. By 1981, his performance was so bad due to alcohol that the Army honorably discharged him, sending him out into the world with no structure and no plan. Later, 2 fellow soldiers would allege that he assaulted them while they were in Germany, signs that his violent sexual urges were there, just not yet escalating to murder. After the Army, he drifted to Florida, worked at a sandwich shop, ended up homeless, sleeping on the beach, drinking away his paychecks, eventually broke and alone. He called his father and went back to Ohio. Within months, he was arrested for disorderly conduct and public intoxication. Lionel and his new wife decided Jeff needed a change. So in late 1981, Dahmer went to live with his grandmother, Catherine, in West Dallas, Wisconsin, a suburb of Milwaukee, for a while. It actually looked like things might stabilize. He helped with chores, went to church, got a job at the Ambrosia chocolate factory. His grandmother loved him and tried to give him a quiet, structured life. But his inner demons didn't stay quiet. He continued drinking heavily. He started going to gay bars and bathhouses in Milwaukee, and there he developed a pattern, drugging men, waiting for them to pass out, and then using their bodies while they were unconscious. He didn't want partners who could move, talk, or resist. He wanted bodies he could position and control. Eventually, one bathhouse banned him for drugging patrons. He was also arrested for exposing himself in front of 2 boys. The fantasies were escalating. The boundaries were dissolving. He even admitted later that he almost dug up a freshly buried body after attending a funeral, but gave up when the ground was too hardened. A dog scared him off. The line between fantasy and reality was getting thinner and thinner, and in 1987, almost a decade after his first murder, Jeffrey Dahmer killed again. Chapter 4: Practice. Trophies, an ESCALITON, November 1987. Dahmer met 25-year-old Stephen Twomey at a gay bar in Milwaukee. He rented a room at the Ambassador Hotel and took Stephen there. Dahmer later claimed he only meant to drug him, to lie next to an unconscious body and live out his control fantasy, not to kill him. He says he blacked out when he woke up. Stephen was dead, beaten severely. Whether or not he remembered is almost irrelevant. He didn't call for help. He bought a suitcase, put the body inside, took it to his grandmother's house, and dismembered and disposed of it. No body was ever found. From there, the pattern solidified. Between 1988 and 1989, he killed several more young men and boys, including 14-year-old James Dockstater, 25-year-old Richard Guerrero, and 24-year-old aspiring model Anthony Sears. He lured them with offers of money for photos, drugged them, strangled them, and then disposed of their bodies. With Anthony Sears, he crossed a new line. He kept body parts, his head and genitals, as trophies, preserving them and hiding them in a locked box, even storing them in his work locker while he served a short jail sentence for molesting a different minor. He once explained that keeping parts of his victim made him feel like they were still with him, like they were permanently his. Crimes paused while he was in jail in 1989, but when he got out, he moved into the place that would become infamous, apartment 213 at 924 North 25th Street in Milwaukee. Chapter 5. Apartment 213. On paper, apartment 213 was nothing special. Small one-bedroom in a rundown building, cheap rent, mostly quiet tenants to his neighbors. Dahmer seemed odd but harmless, a little reserved, a little awkward, but polite behind the locked door, though he built a world entirely dedicated to his fantasies. There was a 57-gallon drum in the corner filled with chemicals for dissolving bodies, a fridge and freezer that didn't just hold food, but human hearts and heads. Skull. Chapter 8. Trial. Prison. ANDDATH Dahmer was charged with 15 murders in Wisconsin and later another in Ohio in court. He pled guilty, but in admitting he did it, but claiming mental illness so severe that he wasn't fully responsible. The prosecution argued he knew exactly what he was doing. He lured, drugged, killed, dismembered, hid evidence, lied to police, and lived a double life for years. Psychologists debated diagnosis, necrophilia, borderline personality disorder, antisocial traits, sexual sadism, psychotic fantasies. But legally, the question wasn't, is he sick? It was, did he know right from wrong? The jury said yes. He was found sane and guilty on all counts and sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in Wisconsin, plus another in Ohio, effectively. Life without parole many times over. Victim impact statements were heartbreaking. One of the most famous came from Rita Isbell, sister of victim Errol Lindsay, who screamed at Dahmer in court, "I'm going to kill you. I don't ever want to see my mother go through this again." She had to be physically restrained. Dahmer barely reacted in prison. He initially stayed in isolation for his own safety. Later, he was moved into general population. He claimed to have found religion. He was baptized in 1994 and told Minister Short forgiveness and believed he was sick. But even behind bars, he sometimes mocked his own crime-shaping food into limbs, adding ketchup as fake blood, joking about what he'd done. Other inmates noticed. Some hated him. Some were morbidly fascinated. On November 28, 1994, while cleaning a prison bathroom with two other inmates, Christopher Scarver and Jesse Anderson, Dahmer was left unsupervised. Scarver grabbed a metal bar from the weight room and beat Dahmer severely, crushing his skull. He also attacked Anderson. Jeffrey Dahmer was pronounced dead about an hour later. His parents had his body cremated. His brain, which some wanted studied, was ultimately destroyed. Scarver received additional life sentences. The victims' families were left with grief that never really ended. Chapter 9: Legacy of a Monster Who looked on or after Dahmer's death. The Oxford apartments were demolished. No one wanted to live there. The lot remains emptier. Scar on the city. Dahmer's story has been turned into books, documentaries, and shows. The Jeffrey Dahmer Files, Conversations with a Killer, The Jeffrey Dahmer Tapes, Dahmer, Monster, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, and more. Some of these brought awareness. Others, arguably, exploited trauma and re-traumatized families, especially when they fictionalized or romanticized parts of the story. Why are we so obsessed with him? Part of it is the horror of what he did. Part of it is the failure of systems that should have stopped him sooner. Like the night police returned a bleeding 14-year-old Boito, the man who would kill him. But there's something else. Jeffrey Dahmer didn't look like a monster. He looked like a quiet guy with glasses, someone you might work with, sit next to on the bus, someone whose neighbors described him as polite. He knew right from wrong. He hid what he was for years. He exploited bias, homophobia, racism, and indifference. In the end, this isn't just a story about a serial killer. It's a story about missed warnings, systemic failure, and the terrifying truth that evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes, it looks painfully ordinary. That is the story of Jeffrey Dahmer. If you've made it this far, take a second to breathe. If there are other cases you want me to cover, let me know in the comments. I read everything you send. Until next time, be safe, take care of yourself, and I'll see your beautiful face in the next video.